Hello everyone and welcome to our next panel session for today where we talk about global champions building Malaysia's billion ringgit revenue company. This chat with the champs will be moderated by Leong, Yuen, Chief Executive Officer of WCIT Malaysia. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Julie. I haven't seen you in ages. And thank you to all our panelists today for joining us in this session. This is a very exciting session because we are going to talk about how we can or cannot build the next billion ringgit revenue company. So with me on the panel, we've got Danny, the Group CEO of GHL Systems Berhad. We've got Sabran, the COO of Inari Technologies in Berhad. And we've got Tong, yay, VP of Strategic Management, Silterra, Malaysia. Okay, let's start with the most difficult question. Jang, jang. What is a billion ringgit business idea? To build a billion ringgit business, you got to think of the idea first. So if the idea with the addressable market is limited, then you're not actually really going to make your company a billion ringgit company. So Tong, what would you say to that?
All right, so thank you, Yuen, and good morning to everyone. This is always a very big question with people with very, very big ambitions. But fundamentally, from my experience, you need three things. One is what I would just classify as innovation. You need to have something that is unique. And that form, we can generally talk about innovation in a very broad way. Second, you need to have a global perspective, which is the market must be big enough for you to take a fraction of it, and that fraction is a billion, basically. So you need to see the global perspective.
Let's talk about that fraction. How many industries are actually going to be able to help generate, a billion ringgit in revenue? A fraction of that. So aside from resources like we're talking about petroleum, oil palm, what else are we talking about? We're probably talking about healthcare today. What else?
Well, that's good. I think the way to look at it, actually, that's why I use the word innovation to mean not just invention, but actually new ideas, new ways of looking at things. Who would have expected, helping taxi drivers to be $1 billion business? Who would have expected it 5 years ago, that you can sell books online and have it to be a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So innovation is not just about creating new stuff. It's actually creating new ideas to help identify and address what needs are. So first, what are the needs? And then other needs, can it be translated into a more general, more global, more widely recognized need? So that's why I use the word global perspective. So it's not just global, but actually it's everybody needs, right? So that's one aspect of it. Okay?
That's actually very limited to only, I actually don't think it's something that everybody could have figured out, overnight. So let's check with Danny. You were an entrepreneur, you were a co-founder of some Adaptis, which is a technology company before, a startup. Did you then, when you were building your startup, already have that ambition that you want to build it into a billion ringgit company?
To be frank, those days we were quite young. We didn't have that big ambition, to be very frank. And hence, we started off building an automotive software that serves Malaysia, then the region, right? But that ambition actually came later part as you start the business, right? To be very frank, because I was jumping out from Accenture, do our own business, and yes, we did not have that big of a dream. But as you get into the business, then you actually start seeing, like what Tong said, you see the addressable market, you see the potential better, and you're tweaking along the way, right? Just to add on to what Tong was saying just now, I agree with Tong. They're saying basically innovation all help to grow those things, but I would like to bring it to another perspective that may not need to be global market. Okay? I think the idea is your addressable market needs to be able, and you take a fraction of an addressable market that will give you the 1 billion ringgit revenue, right? That addressable market need not be a global play. I just want to qualify that. For example, let's say for GHL's perspective, right? We focus on ASEAN and we do cashless payment. we truly believe, because in ASEAN, cash is still probably over 90%. That conversion would definitely, ASEAN itself would definitely easily bring us to a $1 billion revenue market. So I just want to give some other perspective that not only global, that I think that a company can go and make billion ringgit revenue. It's all down to the addressable market.
So was it how you, when you are running GHL right now, Danny, was that something you had in mind from day one, that the addressable market is actually sizable, and therefore, hey, you must conquer this market and that market. You must make sure Southeast Asia is one market for you. Is that how you work, or
yes,
how
absolutely, absolutely. That's when we decided that yes, we want to be a $1 billion revenue company. Then you say, okay, should I just stay in ASEAN, Southeast Asia, or if it's not enough, where else should I go? Asia or global, right? But we believe that to achieve our dream of 1 million, ASEAN was enough. So that I didn't need to go or helping us go global. So we can be a bit more focused in it.
Sabran, Southeast Asia, is it enough for you, or that is not? The global market is Inari's market, which?
Okay, now Inari is a bit unique because, first of all, we are dealing with the consumer electronics, and we make things that goes into the smartphone, and always the latest smartphone uses the latest technology of the component that we make. Of course, we are not the owner of the component, we are contract manufacturer, but the criteria that we had that make us a $1 billion company is that we become a highly reliable contract manufacturer for our customer who serve the end customer. It is the end customer that had this product that drive the consumer electronic markets today, which is a smartphone. Okay, so the core item of making Inari successful, in my view, to become a $1 billion company, is that our true value that we created. We created true value that has its high worth, not only to our immediate customer, but also to the end customer. Okay, and secondly, along the way when we do this, of course, cost has always been a key item in manufacturing, right? As well as the component cost. We also bring about and develop and contribute quite significantly to a local ecosystem here, specifically in Penang in particular. And I'm referring to players that are our suppliers in particular, as well as our partners, okay? And just to give you some perspective, about half our machineries that we use are made in Penang, and Penang is known worldwide today as a global contributors to the automated machineries. Okay, we had that names here in Penang, and about half our machines are made from the local players, and we have a lot of contribution doing that to the local people here.
Very interesting. So are we saying that if this ecosystem is not present in Penang where you are, then perhaps your rise to become a $1 billion ringgit company would be a lot slower?
Well, definitely this is one of the factors. Okay, we are in the consumer market. The product that we make is very, very volatile. It's a smartphone. It's changing almost every 6 months, if not faster. So the way we react to the demand has to be there when the customer needs it. And at the same time also be resilient when the markets are low, because it's a very seasonality, right? It's very seasonal. So I've been able to take up orders when they come and continue our company running in a profitable and efficient way when this volume is low is really the challenge that we have to live day by day. And we were able to do that, and with the local ecosystem help us to be that way, because we had agreement or understanding with the local guys that some part of their capacity and some part of their services are really meant for us. So these are the key items for us to be in this market.
So are we saying that to become a $1 billion ringgit business, a lot also has to depend on the space, the where you are, the support that you're getting, perhaps the availability of funding, alignment maybe, Tong?
Yes. So there is a proverb, right, that says no man is an island. And so the same goes with businesses. You cannot really be a business yourself. So business has to be in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem may be local or it may be transnational. So I actually want to kind of bring another word in, which is that Danny was saying global.
Global.
I also want to correct that. Actually, it doesn't have to be global. Transnational is the correct word, right? Because as long as it's a multiple big enough, so you need to have different ways of dealing with it. You need partners, you need strategic partners, you need suppliers, you need your value chain. Even addressing the market itself, you cannot do it all by yourself. No company does it by yourself. You have to work with partners, local partners, different countries.
So then the question is, how do you know? Where do you start? What should be the first thing that's of importance for you to go with? Should we be saying things like Anwar Anwar was asking which companies, besides your own, of course, what kind of industry would have the potential to be $1 billion? Are we going into play? Are we going into the sandbox thinking that, okay, I want to identify the $1 billion space first, then only I go in? Or you really just go answer the core question of, I'm doing this because I'm solving a problem?
Okay, so it's actually two sides of one coin. Okay, let me explain the two sides of the one coin. The first part is that you need to have something that you have that is sustainable and defensible, and I kind of call it under innovation. You have to have something unique that you can bring. If you don't have something unique, then somebody else can catch up and overtake you. So if anybody overtakes you, your chances of getting to where you want to be is going to be very minimal. So that's the first part. Unless you're a me too, then you just follow really fast. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is who are the people who need this service or contribution that you have? Okay, that is the market. In fact, if you have something that's so good, people will come and see you. They will come and knock on your doors, right? There are businesses like that. You know, we don't know them because we are not in that area. But did you know that Germany has this whole group of companies called Mittelstand? They're small, medium-sized companies. We don't know that, but you know, Malaysia buys a lot of that. Checkbooks, okay? There's only 1 or 2 companies in the world that actually prints checkbooks. The second one is if you see those big road pavers, those road pavers are actually German, okay? And because they do it so well, everybody, even Japanese, have to buy from them. So that's the other part of it, which is if you have the right innovation, of course, you cannot just sit in your home or in your office. You need to make sure people know about it. So that's the second part. And if those people, if you did some effort and it's the right one, those markets will instantly gravitate to you. Okay, so that would be how I would explain where those two pieces will come in. You need to have that alignment. And most of the time, it's about how you put those two things together in one company.
I think that is the most difficult question. The two sides of a coin, which side first? And do you have two sides? Do you even have the coin? So that's really the question. Okay, let's go a little easier. How do we turn an existing business into a ringgit 1 billion one? Let's say you're in a business. Can you look at your own business and think, okay, there's a chance here that this can be a ringgit 1 billion business. What is it that we're looking for when we are saying that, when we want to be able to say that, Danny?
Okay, first of all, I mean, the way I see it is, it doesn't change from how you started out, all right? The whole idea of this strategy is looking at two sides of a coin. Is the same thing, but you need to continuously relook at it. It's not something that we decide, okay, there's a market, that's the innovation we want to do, we address the market, and we don't look at it for next 5-10 years. No, today's world, it doesn't work that way. You literally need to continuously look at it because there are competition, there are consumer demands that are changing very fast, right? So to me, no matter which part of the journey the company is, right, to be a billion-dollar company, you need to continually look at it. We look at it every 6 to 12 months to recheck whether we are still on track. Has things changed? And because like what Ingdong said, if you're transnational, different countries, at least in our business, would have a different flavor in changing within the 6 months. And things are changing so fast, especially in the payment space, right? And if you wait to look at this and relook at the strategy in 3 years' time, I think it's bye-bye. It's just too slow in today's world, right? So that two sides of a coin thing, we literally have to look at it very frequently and question ourselves, question the market individually, the countries per se.
So maybe the question needs to be, let me rephrase it. Is there a difference in our mindset if we are running a company, maybe 5 million ringgit revenue, and then we grew, it became 10 million ringgit revenue? That jump from about 10 million to 100 million to a billion, is there a huge mindset shift that's happening, Danny?
Yeah, it has to be, right? To what I tell people is basically forget about last time. And the last time it can be what you learned in your last 10 years or what you have learned in the last 6 months. And that mindset has to continuously change to create that leap. Because that's the only way you can protect your innovation. Protect, like what I said, protect meaning keeping your innovation relevant in the market. The key is not being creative. Your innovation does not need to be creative, it has to be relevant in the market at that time and space. And that time moves very fast, right? So back to mindset, yes, you must always cultivate that mindset, not yourself, not as a group CEO only, but cultivate all the way down, right? For companies who run multiple countries, for us like us, we rely on my guys on the ground to tell me what's changing on the ground. I wouldn't know what's changing on the ground in Philippines every 3 months. In reality, you have to cultivate that mindset, not only to yourself, so that everybody would actually become a bit more, quote unquote, robotic, more in a culture that people look at it that way perpetually.
Sabran, so you know how when we were just now Danny was mentioning that we need to forget whatever happened and start looking at things differently all the time, especially if you are building a completely different company with a larger revenue. So when you run a company that is giving us R1 billion versus a company that's giving us even 50 million ringgit, when you're running it, what would be the biggest shift or the biggest change in the leadership at the top?
Well, to start with, the very basic fundamental, again, I mentioned earlier, what is our actual true value, right? This is what we are really worth to the customer that we serve, okay? Then second of all, we have to define our own core value, okay? In the case of Inari, the CEO has smartly taken the word Inari, I-N-A-R-I. Okay, so the first I, he defined it as being integrity. These are the core values, yeah? Integrity. And no excuse. We deliver and do exactly what we say. Align partnership, to customer partnership, our supplier partnership, even government bodies, academia, all align in our partnership. R, results, right? And I, the last one, is initiative. Okay, so this core value is becoming the strength. And then the first thing is, following up after that, is use this core value to synergize the team, that everyone walk the talk and do exactly the same thing over and over, day in, day out. Okay, so that become the foundations or the strength, and we build upon the strength. Now, is there any different? Again, we are on the CM, right? Contract manufacturer. So we are an execution players, right? We take in item, then we have to deliver. So we're more on the execution. We do things, and not so. This synergy, build a team, listen to the customer. Is all the basic fundamental that we are already having in place. But then managing 15 million versus managing 1 billion, in my own opinion, with this core value and the way that we run it, it doesn't make a difference, okay? Because as we expand, we actually expand in terms of the volume, right? And this volume is built over our common platform that we are leveraging what we have, okay? Of course, the amount of volume goes up has to be much higher than the resources that we have to take in, right? That's how the worth of the revenue grows as well as the profit grows, but the cost is capped to be effective and productive. So there's nothing replaces efficiency, productivity, and sheer hard work to be successful, be it small or big, right?
Sure,
So
I understand that.
So is the mindset change? I don't think so that it has to change completely, but alert to what's going on and adapt to add on to our initial strength that we build upon continuously. So I think that would be my say.
Is there a quicker way? I know we're talking about persistence, about hard work, about, you know, sheer determination. Let's say we have all that. We have all that. Let's say, you know, the audience tuning in is already a company, you know, ready to go, raring to go, raring to build this. You know, I want to be R1 billion revenue 3 years down the road, right? So 3 years down the road, what would be the quickest way possible for them to achieve it? Let's say they do have the addressable market. Does that mean they should be raising more capital? Should they be looking at funding? Funding, I don't know. IPO? What should be the fastest way? What kind of a different point view would you point them at? Can we this time around start with Danny?
Well, it depends on the business, to be frank. Of course, aside from raising funds to execute things organically by yourself, natural thing is M&A, right? To me, because and it's no, I mean, even the big boys like the ones that Tong mentioned, they're all involved in M&As, and it's no issue with doing M&As, right? So the way I always tell people is like you must have your 2 eyes on your core business, creating the core value to get where you want to be, the $1 billion question, but have another eye looking at M&A wherever opportunity comes, right?
Are we looking at investors or are we looking to buy over?
Buy over to basically expedite my M&A. I have meant basically to expedite your growth, right? As what is mentioned earlier, today's world is so collaborative in nature, it's so ecosystem in nature. So it's actually there's a lot of actually quite interesting M&A targets out there that can actually be quickly put together and actually expedite your growth. Right? But the key here is back to how do you, of course, everybody talks about that, but how do you really assimilate that your own culture, core values back to the acquired company, right? I mean, that's always a challenge, right? So, but to me I would say M&A would be the way forward if you want to go very fast.
Okay, M&A, that would be an answer. And is this very specific to software, Danny? Or can this be applied, or it doesn't matter? I think Hamka Suleiman in the group asked, are we very specifically talking about the manufacturing sector, or can this be applied across board?
Okay, I'll answer from because I'm not a hardware guy, so I won't even dare to even comment on that. I leave it to my other 2 panelists to do that. Basically, to me, it's more of, I would say, software/service/platform kind of business.
Okay. Tong, what do you think? The fastest way. I'm ready now. I'm ready. So what is the fastest way I can go?
I'll give one word. Synergy.
Ooh, a very difficult word.
Yes, synergy is basically 1 + 1 = 4, right? So if you want to do M&A, you have to make sure it's done with synergistic reasons. I can give you an example. I was working for HP and they wanted to grow from 50 billion to 100 billion. And you cannot grow organically. The only way to do that is to buy companies. That's why they ended up buying Dell. They ended up buying huge companies. And guess what? They got indigestion.
Ooh.
That's the reason why HP today is 3 separate companies, because they cannot put it all together. The cultures match. There were huge issues. So there was no synergy except in the balance sheet. So the financial engineers said buy, so you can get to 100. They're 120 today, by the way. Okay, so we have to be careful what you want to do. The second aspect of synergy is actually in yourself. If you want to grow, you need to also know how your people can expand. Okay, so I advise and work with companies in Singapore. You know what is the biggest issue when you're a startup to grow from startup to 5 million?
Sizable, yes.
Yes, even 5 million. Okay, the
Mm.
issue is when they start off with 6 people, 10 people, you know everybody, you know how to deal with it. The moment they went to 20, they started having problems. Why? Because you now have a second layer of management. Nobody who started at 6 and 10 had experience managing other people. So if you cannot manage a second layer, you cannot grow. Why? Because everybody, now you have 20 people working as if it's 20 people, but actually you can't. You need to have 20 people with organization that behaves as 30 people. Okay, so that's why organization's there. That's why the military is the most efficient way of organizing. Let's bring up another analogy, right? So when you're going to grow from say 20 million to a billion, you need to think of it in steps because you cannot grow suddenly that fast. Even a caterpillar to become a butterfly, they have to go through one intermediate stage called a pupa. Right? So you have to go from 20 million to 100 million. You need to figure out what are the steps you have to go along the way, and each one of them will transform itself differently. Your organization will change, your supply chain will change. What you thought was a 1% yield problem, 1% at the volume that you are at 20 million is manageable. 1% at a billion is a deluge. You will now be able to, you will lose all your profit in that 1%, right? I think Sabran is smiling here because he completely understands that. So I give you the answer in one word, but the explanation is a bit longer.
Yeah, but it's still quite difficult to wrap around, your head, anyone's head actually, around how to do it. I guess the question would be, if you talk to enough people or you have this conversation with as many people as possible and who understand your business, you may come nearer to an answer that could help your business, I would imagine.
Well, I come back to that one, the two-sided coin. It always comes back to the two-sided coin, because if you have the right value, okay, the way you explain to other people is easier because they can get it. If you have something so unique, then how you explain it to someone is difficult. Now you have to do a lot of marketing dollars. You have to push. Okay, so if you don't have something that is easily understood, and this is where I want to come back to what Danny said, is understood to your target market, because if you explain it to the wrong target market, they will never understand it.
Or they don't need it, even if they understand it.
Correct. Yeah, so for the people who are working and in the tool industry, they don't need to talk to you and I. Who they want to talk to is Sabran, and say, hey, I've got this tool that's going to make your thing more efficient. You got this market, I can go for it. You want 10 or you want 100? Right? If he talks to Danny, Danny's going to go, is it a server? Is it an app? Oh, no. Okay, you need to do this. Okay, sorry, not my area. So that's where the two-sided coin comes in. You have to know your market and how you satisfy it for everything. So once you know how to do that, getting it to the right group of people becomes your problem. Then you've now reduced everything to that problem.
Okay, for Sabran, I'm interested to know what you think about governance, risk, compliance. I know you have been working for large companies, so clearly you would have, gotten used to governance, to compliance, from day one itself. But how do you, what do you think getting younger people, especially people in the startups, people in the in younger companies, to actually now consider governance and compliance in a very serious manner, to really relearn or unlearn what, the kind of non-structured way to now become a lot more structured? What would be the one thing you would help them understand better?
Well, definitely we have to adopt some basic standards. When it comes to manufacturing, ISO 9001 definitely is a basic. Environmental wise, ISO 14,000. We even have this social CSR, corporate social responsibility. We have already adopted. So this has become the core or the backbone how the company runs and manage. So we make this standard is a part of the way of our lives. Right? You cannot have two way of doing it. Whatever that we set as the system that's already been defined in the standard, that's what we practice. So do what you say what you do. I think this is all common to everybody, and continue to build up the value of it in much more efficient and productive way. In Inari, how this being is adopted is that not only we have it documented, but we created it into our manufacturing execution system. And this is where of the late, the IoT or Industry 4.0 element is adopted and being used as the way of life or how we do our thing. So whenever there is a new players coming in, the youngsters, right? Of course, they are more computer based, right? They are more savvy about how systems are than people of my age. Okay, so it's much easier for them to adopt and live with, because this is something that they are already growing up with. So, but then from the basic structure point of view, management like me has to take in all this new stuff and adopt it and put it into the system that we have already practiced, probably before manually. Then after that, there's some automations, and now it's becoming Industry 4.0, whereas everything is made available just by the touch of your handphone, because it's a web-based item. Okay, so my supervisor, for example, now knows how is the output, how is the yield by looking at the handphone, because the data is made available through our portal, right? So then everyone who comes to work must know how to learn to do this. Otherwise, they cannot work. Gone are the days that people had to go be in a line and look up all the logbooks and the records to get the data. Nowadays, no, you look it up just at the portal, right? So again, innovation and also adapting how things progresses with the latest available method of running things and conveying yourself to all the message, right? In the total synergy of it. This is something that you have to put in place, right? Which is also now becoming a basic fundamental item that you have to have in manufacturing systems.
Okay, that's Sabran's reply. I want to hear it from ex-entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who started up things, break things, and then suddenly come into companies or build companies or are building companies that is $1 billion ringgit in revenue, right? Governance, risk, compliance. How that changed? Must be crazy. Danny.
I mean, to me, it's definitely crazy. Like exactly bringing back to what Tong said, right? I mean, you have 6 people, 20 people, 200 people, 1,000 people. It's very different, right? Some point in time, and I like your analogy on that, Tong, that you need to be a bit more military, whether you like it or not. Because if not, how can you get to $1 billion if people don't march in the same order or same direction, right? And how do you cultivate that, right? Hence, to me, it becomes very important as you want to grow big in terms of people as well as the company revenue, etc. Corporate governance, right? In our business, we are regulated as well, right? So yeah, I've got two perspectives. I've got the regulatory part, and I've got my own corporate governance. Right? To me, because we want to grow big in an orderly manner, corporate governance is priority. Okay, because that sets the whole culture, that sets the whole direction, that sets the things, so that you make sure that as you go crazy growing, things are still in order. Again, a very military style concept, right? So that's what I tell people is that framework needs to be there, and it's more important than regulation. I dare to say that regulation we must follow, okay, and I will preach this, and that we follow and comply to what we need to do and no more. Why? Unless it's corporate governance related. Hence, you see the precedents take over. Corporate governance more important to me than regulation. Not to say we won't do regulation, right? Why? Because if we sometimes we follow regulation too much or overdoing it, you would actually
Lose your edge. Yes.
creativity. You subside a lot of creativity, right? What I always tell people that my staff is that you bend the rules to the point that before it breaks. Right? Don't go illegal, of course we won't, but that's where creativity gets in play. Give you room to be creative. So then that culture-wise, corporate governance on top of everything, even on top of regulation, so that we can march in the same order, same direction.
Okay. Tong, you remember how you started this conversation talking about, finding the right market and then taking a fraction of that and make sure that fraction is already $1 billion ringgit worth, of businesses for you. So in looking at this, in looking at the new and fastest growing industries, for example, from what we are discussing here, Silterra, Inari are very traditional in that sense, manufacturing, to looking at current new interests from your software, your pharma, your e-commerce, your consumer electronics of other types of consumer electronics. How do we do it?
Well, I'm glad you brought that question up, Yuen, because we are actually not a traditional company. So one of the issues is we're making, people who don't know, we're making chips, we're making wafers that are cut into chips. Do you know that some of the things...
I saw it in Silterra. You showed it to me. It's amazing, but okay.
Yes. Okay, what's more amazing is how we make it. What is even more amazing now is that, we are making those chips to allow people to use it for healthcare. We're working with partners around the world who are working on how to detect COVID, how to detect cancer using a chip. We've already designed, built, and launched for a customer a chip that is able to do your DNA processing in 4 hours. Okay, so that's one. The second one we're working on really is we're working on how we put in fiber optics onto the chip itself so that you go faster. Okay. A third one is how we're using the technologies, using chip technology to create ultrasonics. Today, ultrasonic is you only come close to it when you're pregnant and checking the baby and looking at the picture of the baby, the ultrasound. Okay, but that machine is very big. So what we have done is in our teams, we've created patented technologies that are able to make chips, those ultrasonic chips, even smaller. So in 1 square inch, we could have 1 million of those in there, and we can now use it to do fingerprint testing. We can detect fingerprints. Okay, so the issue here is because we're able to we can make these kinds of innovation, and by the way, they're all Malaysians. Okay, maybe a handful of non-Malaysians, but 97% of Silterra is Malaysians. Because we're able to do that, we have people around the world coming to see us and say, can we take a sample and do it for our product? Okay, so that's the lesson, and the thing I want to let people know is that if you have a unique contribution and find a way to tell people, the reason you don't know them is because you don't read the papers that those guys read, right? So if you're looking for the next generation of ultrasonics, you'll be looking at reading papers of whether these things work. And your engineers are not the same ones. There'll be a group of people who are doing that. But if you're looking at that, you say, whoa, there's a company in where? Kulim. Where is Kulim? Well, that's in Kedah, right? Oh, they're doing that. So that's when they will come and see us. And we've got a whole bunch of companies coming to see us. So what we're hoping for is when they mature in their technology and building it into a product, which they will then hopefully come to see us and say, we want more chips. And then we'll say, yeah, we can make chips, but if you want to make the product, go see Sabran. All right? So that's how innovation works. And from our perspective, this is how we grow. Because if we don't have that, we can go around the world and say, hey, would you like to make some chips? They're going to say, thank you, Silterra, but actually China cheaper. So that is the story that I really want to have people understand, okay? If you don't have unique contribution in innovation, you can go and chase the customers all you like. Their first question is, can you do it cheaper? Why? Because I've got the guy next door who can do it for me already cheaper. You will never win if you're cheaper.
And just for this, just for what you have described, I really think Khazanah should stay. Okay, another question that I wanted to ask from the Q&A that everyone has just put out. I want to pick two here because we are going to finish in 5 minutes. One is 2020 is a really strange year. How can we? How is there? Given how we have like a few months left, like 2 months, 1 month left, is there any other way to increase the sales and profit for this year? Is 2021, despite the uncertainty, can we work on something that could bring us some certainty? Danny?
I mean, from a GHL perspective, given
the numbers have been good.
given a very challenging year to the world, we have literally had a V curve recovery, right? And I guess sad to say, the silver lining out of COVID is actually cashless payment, right? So for remaining part of the year, because we go on a run rate business, so we see the run rate as in transaction. Well, yes, it's improving, but we stop here and there where countries like Philippines, they'll lock down and stuff like this. We get some of this impact, right? But looking into 2021, I'm very, very bullish about it, okay? Because for us, because during this pandemic period actually gave us some time to take a step back during the MCO lockdown and stuff. Me and my staff actually took a step back and we do a lot of calls thinking about things that, because you don't have to see customers so much and all. So re-strategizing, re-innovating some of the ideas, and that's why we launched some of the new things coming out of MCO, like launching our lending products, our insurance product, and all those things. And all those are setting the stage for the future, 2021 to start off with. So I like to think of anything that happened back to see how to get better out of it. And we actually did that as far as GHS is concerned. So I'm looking forward to 2021.
Okay. And Eng Tong, a question for you. Should a founder continue to be the CEO? Or actually when it's time to be a CEO of a company, especially a billion ringgit one, it does take effort to rethink this role proper.
Well, I can give you an example, and the only answer I can give is you look at the founders of Google. They decided to hand it over to somebody professional. Same thing for a few companies you would probably know. So I think it's a personal thing, and also it's a capability thing. Some people kind of max out to a certain level. Others might want to just, okay, I've done my thing, I've achieved my lifetime ambition, and I would like to go and live in an island under a coconut tree somewhere. And others will still want to fight on. Jeff Bezos, he's the guy who started Amazon. He's still there. He likes it and he hasn't stopped. So it's difficult to say, but I would say usually the decision maker is the one with the money. If you have VCs, they will decide, and that's what happened to Uber. And you can all know the story about that. So the one with the most money will always make the most decisions. It's called the golden rule.
Yes.
I mean, can I just add on? I think sharing this, I think with sharing as founders and all, I think the key thing as the company grow, the founder themselves need to be very honest to themselves and for the business. Whether you still want to chase after it, are you tired, or I think that the key for the sake of the company, the founders themselves need to be very honest to themselves and make that decision, that hard decision, right? There are people who are very good in starting things. There are very good people who are good in growing things. People who can sustain
And
things.
turn around things, yes. People who turn from bad businesses to good ones.
All founders to be honest to themselves, to say who are you, what you want to do, and make that difficult decision, and not about I'm stepping down or whatever the kind of thing. I think that is for the sake of the company. Sorry.
Sabran, I think you have a question. Do you think being in a PLC is hurting your entrepreneurship ability to take risks? I don't know. What do you think, Sabran?
Well, I don't think so. Again, it's going back to the very basic thing I keep saying, your true value, your true value that you created. If you had that, then you can go far. So that's the first thing that we have to be very, very mindful of and set the right mindset about it, right? I think there's enough opportunity, help, all abundance around, particularly in Malaysia, right? With the government agencies like MIDA, MITI, and many others that in particular Inari are actually working with very closely, as well as academia, right, for the resources of the talent and the people. As long as you have a true value, then you connect with all these people that actually have offer or can get help from. I think we can go far. So it's not really limited. It's really what you have to do and what you have to sell is really the one that matters.
Okay, my final question, and your answer needs to be short, okay? Like short, not like long, okay? Because we don't have time. So the final question is, do you think we need the government to step in to help, whatever way, in order to build more billion ringgit revenue companies?
Answer first, definitely yes. Definitely yes, right? Because the government should act as the catalyst that get things going. So the moment things are going, we can be independent on ourselves.
Thank you, Sabran. Danny?
Answer naturally has to be yes. And I think just to add on to that, I think the government should bring other big billion-dollar companies within Malaysia to be part of the so-called ecosystem to grow together. And I know a lot of Malaysian founders and successful companies. We are very, very Malaysian. We actually do want to help each other. So I think sometimes things need to be a bit more coordinated.
Less silo, more coordinated. Tong.
It's a yes, how? Because if you don't do it right, it's going to really stunt everything. The best way they can do that is to create a market. I come back to the market. What they can do is they can say, I want to do smart city and I only allow people who manufacture and design in Malaysia to be part of the team. Because when you say something like that, most people will come in and just import. So it's a yes, but how?
Well, with that, thank you very much to all my wonderful panelists. I think we have gotten quite a fair bit of insights from each one of you. And we should be more than, ready compared to 1 hour before to build Malaysia's next billion ringgit revenue company. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ngai, Yuen, and to our esteemed panelists as well for sharing with us your thoughts and experiences. And I hope for all of you who have been watching, that has given you some ideas and pointers on how to build the next billion ringgit revenue company. Good luck to all of you on your entrepreneurial journey, of course. Now, we do have more exciting panel discussions coming right up. We're going to move on to our next discussion, detailing a Malaysia Digital Hub land and expand in ASEAN. Do stay with us for those of you who are on Facebook, and those who are watching us via our virtual platform, do click on the join session to watch us next.